just speed up so many things and make your life so much easier if you have it. And on the flip side, can have heavy taxes if it's not there. What if these low moments in our life where it feels like we got kicked straight in the junk was actually just the next thing to set us up for something great? My name's Nathaniel Burr, and I'm the host of Kicked in the Junk podcast. Divorce, job loss, injuries, or just something that we needed, and the universe telling us we need to change our course. Hey everybody, it's Nathaniel here with Kicked in the Junk. I'm really excited for today's podcast. Today's podcast is about something that can change everything you do in your life, every interaction with any other business, relationship, friends, family, team sports, anything you're doing, and something that can greatly impact your life and also negatively impact your life if you're not doing these things properly. So I'm really excited for this. This topic today is about trust. And this information I'm pulling from is actually from a book that I read a while back called The Speed of Trust by Covey. And it's a great book. I'm really excited to just kind of give you some of the information that I've learned from it and how it applies to your life. We're going to go over that right away here. So I have some notes down below, so I will be glancing back and forth to keep you on track just so I'm not rambling on. And like I said, we're going to just jump into this right away. So trust, it is everywhere. People talk about it, with certain relationships, but you don't realize that it is literally in everything we do. I mean, a good example, I was driving home today, we have a stoplight, or, it goes red, and we're trusting that everybody's going to stop. Sometimes they don't, and that's when accidents happen. But we're trusting that that's people are going to stop for that. You go to the bank machine, you put in your debit card, and you trust that money's going to come back out, right? So there's trust there. We're constantly extending trust. So even if you think you're somebody that's not trustworthy, or you don't trust anybody or anything, you actually do. You're just not seeing the little ways that you are, or maybe there's certain areas you don't trust people, or certain things. So again, trust is everything from government organizations to businesses, to relationships, friendships, families, owning your own business. So it really affects everything we do. And there's so many benefits from this. And the book is called The Speed of Trust, and how that trust can just speed up so many things and make your life so much easier if you have it. And on the flip side, can have heavy taxes if it's not there. So examples of, I'm going to go over some examples of trust in a few different topics of lack of trust and when you have a high trust scenario, just to give you an idea of what this looks like in day-to-day examples. So first one being, trust with in a relationship. So if you're in a low trust relationship, that could look like you're, saying you're just hanging around the house, and you see somebody, your partner, whoever it is, texting or messaging, and they're on their phone doing something. And if you're a low trust person, and then that person, as you come over, they put their phone away or whatever. If you're a low trust person, you're going to think, well, what are they doing? Why are they hiding it from me? What's going on? Maybe they're doing this. Maybe they're messaging something. Maybe they're, all these things start coming through your head. Another example would be is if, let's say, somebody else they're going to go with some friends, and the other person is going to stay home, and they go with some friends, and they're going to go to hang out, have a restaurant, have some drinks, and then you see a picture later of them with somebody else. And in your head, because you have low trust for that person, you're going to start making up all these stories. And just whether it's true or not, you're going to go there, and you're going to assume the worst. And a couple things. Well, one, that's going to cause you to increase your cortisol levels, and you're going to start stressing. The stress hormones are going to have a negative impact on your life physically, but now emotionally, now you're worried. So, you're creating these scenarios that might not necessarily be there. And I've seen this before time and time again with people in relationships that are low trust. They're looking and they're hunting for these things, these little things that they're trying to pick up on to justify their thoughts, to justify the fact that they don't have trust in their partner for whatever reason. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes not, but most of the time it's, this little thing that they're trying to do, this big thing, or can be. So, example of a low trust scenario, a good example of a high trust scenario would be that, let's say, the same thing, and that same scenario where the person goes out and they're having a good time, and hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to hang with these people, and it's easy, and hey, could you pick me up after? And they trust that they're going to be picked up after because maybe they're drinking, and and you're able to do things a lot smoother, and you're actually able to enjoy, both parties can enjoy their lives a lot more because there is that trust. They're not, partner one isn't worried about partner two talking to somebody they should, or even if they are talking to somebody, not worried that it's just a conversation, it doesn't mean anything, and that trusting that their partner has the best intentions in mind. So something as little as, again, going back to the phone thing, if they're, partners on the phone and also they put it away, and in a high trust scenario, they're not even thinking about it, they're not worried about it because they know and they trust that partner. And guilty, I've been on both sides of that. I've been not being trusted, and it hurts, and it's tough, and it's brutal, and for various reasons, definitely some of my own fault. But when you look at the other side, thankfully now I'm in a high trust scenario with my partner Emily, that things are just so much easier, and we can do things, we have these conversations and are able to just do so much more in our relationship and not worry about what the other person's doing, and know that and really know their intentions and trust their intentions. So it just speeds things up and makes it more than just a speed, but it's more enjoyable. Life is more enjoyable. So that's with relationships. Friends, you can kind of tie into the same boat. If you trust, your friend's taking out over your car and you don't trust them because previously, let's say they took out your car, used up all the gas, dented it, and got a ticket. Well, that's you might not trust that person to do it again, or maybe you just don't trust in general, and you're not going to let that person, even though they really, really need it badly because their car died and they need to get to work on time. On the flip side is, what if you are that person that does need, you need somebody's help, and sometimes you do need somebody to come and help. So, being able to trust that friend of yours is going to be there for you and have your back is huge, and it makes your life just so much easier, and these low times you have a lot easier to deal with. When you look at, same thing with family dynamics, that's kind of all tied into the same boat. Moving to, let's say, like a business. If you were a business owner, and let's say, you're a mechanic shop, sometimes they get a bad rap. If you have a high trust scenario in your mechanic shop, that because you're going to have customers referred to you all the time by other customers, one. And two, they're going to trust that when you take that vehicle in there, and we do this, or you take the vehicle in there and they trust they're going to do the right thing and they're going to fix it, and they're not going to try to nickel and dime you for every little thing, but they're going to, they're trusting that you're going to do what's best for their vehicle and help them. On the low trust scenario, you might see that as if your business is where customers, well, one, aren't coming to you, or they're standing there watching your every move, or you constantly have people criticizing, looking at what you're doing, and you're not getting referrals. A really great example of a high trust business would be Amazon. How many people out there use Amazon, sometimes daily, at least weekly or even monthly. You give them money first, right? That's high trust as a business. You're giving them money first, then you're getting product. You're waiting that it's coming. So it is so they have a high trust scenario, and that allows them to do business very quickly and seamlessly, and for the end results as a shopper, it's easier and makes my life better, or can make my life better. So that's an example of, as a business. In terms of teams, this is a big one. So I coach football at a high school level, and this is, team sports, it's everything I use. I coach football, so I use that as an example. You think about a high trust scenario when you have a quarterback that's being protected by his O-line, and especially their blind side, and they can't see stuff coming. They're trusting, they have a high trust that their team has their back, not just for their own personal gain, but for their gain of their own team and to protect them. So it allows you to be a much more effective offense, knowing that your line, as a quarterback, you don't have to worry. You're not constantly darting your eyes around looking for somebody to come at you, because your line's there to protect you. Again, you can use any team sport you want, hockey, soccer, trusting when you pass the ball that, in soccer, that their teammates can, actually be able to take the pass and then move forward with it. Hockey, baseball, like whatever sport, if you have a high trust scenario, you're going to get some really good results. And it's going to be a lot easier and faster. And the reverse is a low trust scenario. If you didn't trust your teammates, are you going to put in that, sometimes they're not going to put in that extra effort because they don't trust that their teammates are going to have their back. Again, as a coach, if I don't trust the player, and they're not to point at any one player, but if I don't trust the player that he's gonna be able to do the job that we need him to do, would I put him out there? Probably not. No, because we need somebody that can do the job and that I trust no matter what is going to do their best effort all the time. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but I know they're putting their best effort, and it's going to be best for them and the team. So, example of trust in high and low trust in a team. Government's another really good example. A lot of people, especially with the last few years, and I can't now blame anybody, but it's hard to have. How would you have trust in your government when rules are changing and goalposts are changing and things are moving all the time, and you're not really sure what's going on, and they say this and this happens and whatever. I don't want to dive into that, but it breaks trust, right? So when in a high trust scenario, you're going to be able to understand that they have your best intentions in mind for as many people as possible. In low trust, you won't trust them to do anything. That includes if you're going to call 911 because you need help like that. They're part of a government body. So doing your taxes to you can think of getting your tax filed, all that kind of stuff, to even voting. Like if you had a low trust scenario, you're not going to trust that the voting is even correct. So point being is trust is in everything, and in a high trust, you look at the best governments out there that are high, people trust them, they do the best, and they stay in power for the longest, and they continue to do good things because they make a promise, they fulfill it, and they keep moving forward, and they listen to their people. So and then so that's just an example of there. And then the last one being self-trust, and this is so big because really, if you look at any one of those topics there, if you are a low trust person, if you are someone that doesn't trust anybody, if you've said this, I can't trust anybody, or if I can't trust any guys, or I can't trust women, or I can't trust the government, or businesses are there to screw you, these are all low trust talk and low trust, types of behavior. Well, if you don't trust, these people, it's going to be, sometimes it boils back to you not being able to trust yourself. So, a good example of you being able to trust yourself is, following through something you say you're going to do. You say you're going to go to the gym all the time, and 3 or 4 days a week, and then you continue to do it. You're building trust for yourself. But if you don't, well, then those are just empty, broken promises. So you don't really trust other people. Or if you've been untrustworthy in the past, another example. If you've been, let's say, somebody that has stolen money from somebody else, right, and constantly trying to get yours, it's going to be hard for you to trust another business because you have that mindset of, well, I'm just trying to get mine, and you're going into that same energy, that same intention, or that same narrative that they could be doing the same to me. And so it builds for distrust, and it builds for things to not happen as quickly or as easily, and less enjoyment really in life. So those are just examples of, like I said, trust. And, we did kind of tie into the low trust. So the term in this book they used was, trust tax, or low trust tax. So if you're in a low trust tax scenario, or low trust scenario, you're going to be paying taxes on it. Taxes being that it's going to slow things down. It sometimes literally requires more money, more energy, more effort. Just more. It takes a lot more hand-holding and to scrutinize every scenario. A good example of this in businesses, for example, is that if you are a business and it's a low trust business, for example, there's been businesses in the past, I'm not going to name any, but there's businesses in the past that have made some faulty products, or that have had antitrust issues pop up, or that have been known to be data mining. That builds low trust. So what that does is, for the consumer, they're going to go, wait a minute, I saw that in the news, and I heard about this, I heard that this company was doing that, and they're not going to, one, want to pay for it, or two, if they're going to be paying for that product or that service, they're going to be only willing to pay a lot less because of that, because of these scenarios. So again, that's low trust in the business. Low trust on a team, like I said, mentioned, as a coach, that means that if you're a player and I don't trust you, or if you're being coaching and you're not going to trust your coaches, you're not going to get in as much. So you're going to have to work a lot harder and do a lot more to earn that trust to get playing time. In a relationship, this low trust, like I said, I've been there before, and all it does, and unfortunately, and I own my part, is that I've helped create that relationship in the past too, was that it creates for a lot more stress. It's a lot more headaches. It's a lot more fighting and arguing, and now because every action you do is being scrutinized, and everything the other person does, you're looking at and scrutinizing and looking for ways to kind of go back and forth. Even if I can tell my voice right now, it just creates just so much stress, and physically that's your hormone, your stress hormones pumping, and really just not a place of peace and a place that you can communicate well. Really is a big one. Is now you can't trust them that if you say something wrong, that they're not going to take it the wrong way. It's going to be taken the wrong way because there is no trust, because they don't believe what you say, or they don't believe your intentions, or whatever it is. Again, glancing at notes here, if you were a low trust person with a government, any government body, in the extreme example is you're going to be the one living in the bushes and no power, no internet, no whatever. And you know what, honestly, if that's your life, then do it. Totally cool. But there's other things you're going to be missing out on. You are going to be missing out on there's certain things, or not missing out, but just that are going to be, you're not going to be able to use the road, or not going to be able to use the road, but things like road maintenance is where the high trust comes from. Things like, the services, policing, fire, ambulance, that is government, that is doing that. As much as there's a lot of stuff there that I don't agree with governments, there's some good things that they do. Healthcare, having babies born, all that kind of stuff. So again, that's the government. And then with self, really I've seen this in the past, and I've worked with people that had low trust in themselves, because after talking to them and hearing their stories and how they weren't trustworthy people because they break trust with people, whether it was with money or in relationships, and multiple times over with relationships, that and I have a specific person in mind, but I won't mention names, is that seeing this is that they broke other people's trust so many times, or just did untrustworthy things that they couldn't trust themselves, and then they weren't able to trust others. And it poured into business, it poured into relationships, it poured into friendships. So again, examples of low trust and the negative impacts it has there. So on the flip side, in this book, they talk about trust bringing dividends. And this is where it really gets fun, and why I became so excited about this, because you realize when you have high trust scenarios, and again, not that everything in life should be easy, but things are just easier. Fights are easier, or arguments, and businesses are easier. Interactions in teams are easier, and there's so many things that it speeds things up, and not just to speed them up for the sake of speeding up, but sometimes you do need things to be faster. A great example of, I talk about a great example with friends, the vehicle thing, lending your friend that vehicle because they're in a crunch and they need it, or having a friend lend you the vehicle because they trust you so much that they're totally fine with you taking a vehicle, and you're in a pinch and you need to, or you need to borrow a truck to haul some stuff, and they totally trust you, and it makes your just life so much easier, and you both can reap the benefits of that. I'm gonna, talk about relationships. My wife and I now, Emily, we've had disagreements or just tough conversations, and we both are verbal processors, and this is a good example of where high trust, those dividends, this high trust came into play. We've had discussions that were, hard, that one of us had to say some stuff and talk through some things that we weren't really sure about, and if we were in a low trust scenario and I didn't know her heart and who she is, and trust that she wants the best for not only herself, but for me and our relationship, I might have took things the wrong way because she's a verbal processor and she says some things that kind of don't make sense, but I have to just trust that she's just processing these things and just and it comes out eventually, and then we can talk about it, but without me getting fired up at the first thing she says, even if it does sound weird. I give her some time because I trust that she has what's best in mind for both of us in our relationship. On the flip, she's extending that same to me because I've said some really dumb things in a pinch, or in a moment where I'm like, wait a minute, that was really stupid, but she knows my heart, and she knows that I want what's best for her and our relationship, and for myself too, and we both value that. So that trust has allowed us to have these disagreements and just and just to get disagreements, but these things come up in our lives that are challenging. We can handle them so much better because I trust her with everything and anything, and I know she feels the same way about me, not just with just verbally, but with money, with the kids, with my life. And so it makes and so what it allows, when we have these bumps that come by, and these issues that come up, it allows us to be able to move through them easier and quicker, so we can go back to a place of where we want to be, and loving and kind and caring environment, and we're able to get back there quicker, because life is going to throw things at us. It's not that life is going to never get those things. That's not the case. We constantly have those, but we're able to move through them at just an easier pace. And now, and we're getting so good at it now. It used to be 3 or 4 days of us kind of, okay, we'll get a lot of space, and we're not going to whatever, to now sometimes it's within a few hours, and we're like, hey, you know what, we're talking about it, we're moving on, and we both, you can see the body language is different. So it allows us to now be able to do other things and be able to enjoy life, really. And that's what it comes down to, enjoy life a lot more, especially in the relationship side. We can do more things, we can enjoy the little things a lot more. So moving on to business. So high trust business, like I said, Amazon, a great example of that. We're giving them their money blindly, really. And people say, well, it's Amazon. Well, what do you mean it's Amazon? Well, it's because, Amazon's built that name, and they built that trust. They took the time to add these things in place, and they do it over and over and over and over again, to the point that we can, how many purchases go through them every day, but go through on just, this, not say blind trust, but they just so much trust that it doesn't matter. Okay, well, cool. Well, even if I don't like it, I can return it, so I'll buy it anyway. So a lot of trust there on the business side. Another example is, I said, talking about the mechanics before. A good friend, or a friend of mine, he runs a mechanic shop in town at a dealership, and they're very, very successful. And they constantly have people referring to them because they have high trust, because they say what they're going to do. They don't, they're not charging people on these little extra things that they didn't need. They communicate. I've met them multiple times, and they say, hey, look, we found this. Do you want us to fix it? Do you want us to address this issue? It's going to cost more money, right? They're being very upfront, and they're constantly doing this, right? To the point where they're the best in, one of the best in, I know in town, but definitely, I think even the best in the province. So, again, high trust scenario. If, on the other side, if you are a different area, if you're a coach of any kind, let's say a trainer, and clients trust that, if you give them a weird exercise, or you give them something that just doesn't feel right, or there's something they for some whatever reason don't like, a high trust scenario, they're going to know that, okay, he knows what's best for me because he's delivered results and he's done these things for me before. So now, as a business, if you're a business owner, you're able to reap the benefits, the dividends being that people are going to refer you out. They're going to trust that when I refer you out, you're going to actually call them. You're going to actually pick up the phone and get back to them, and you're going to treat them with as much respect and care as you did with me. And so as a business owner, if you are struggling, I'd ask the question, how can you build trust with your friends? Or with your customers? How can you increase that trust? How can you build upon that, so that way they trust you so much that you are getting referrals, and they're realizing that, hey, you're the person for this field, or whatever it is, whether it's a trainer, whether it's a coach, whether it's mechanic shop, whatever it is, you're the person to go to, because I trust them so much, and I know they'll take care. They took care of me, and I know they're going to take care of you. So as a business, that's the dividends on that. Certain companies on the other side, or not certain companies, rather governments or actually countries have a dividend. You think of certain countries, unfortunately, people associate, if something's made, and say something's made in China, we at least in North America go, oh, it's made in China. Well, I don't know. They're paying a tax for that. And in this book, they actually talk about that. Certain countries have the tax and the dividend. Versus if you read on the back of a product you made, it said it was made in Germany or Switzerland, you're going to go, oh, well, we just do that naturally. Saying, think it's, it's better quality because of, whatever trust that they've built there. And again, this isn't to hit on any one country. This is just, what the book talks about. And what I've noticed people do in conversations, and the just the trust associated when you mention different countries how much they trust that country versus how much they don't. So so again, that's the trust. Again, look at my notes here, the trust coming through, the dividends coming through with countries. So as we can see here, that trust affects all these things, whether it's negative, whether it's positive. There's a tax and there's a dividend to trust. Hopefully you're on the dividend side, but then the question may be for you, again, if you're a business, if you're in a relationship, if you're on a team, really should be the question is, how can I build trust? How can I improve the trust of those that are in positions where, again, if it's a manager or it's an owner and I want to build trust, and how can I do that? Maybe it's a coach and you're on a team and you want to get more playing time. How can I build trust? And being very specific, what does that look like to that coach, to that manager, to my partner, to my friends, to my family? What does that look like in a day-to-day basis? So on that, again, how do you do that? Well, in this book they do have a bunch of steps. There's 13 of them. I'm not going to go into all right now because it's a lot, and I'm already kind of going on in this podcast, but again, looking at my notes, the big one, it starts, how do I build trust? Well, first it starts with self-trust. I'm going back to being an athlete in the past, and even now, again, I do play on a team and I do enjoy it, but we have a high trust on our team. So one, building trust with yourself. So how does it look like? Well, it looks like, do you say what you're going to do? Do you do those things that you say you're going to do? Do you say to yourself, okay, well, I want to be the person that's healthy, fit, and everybody can trust me? Great. When you say somebody, hey, I'll be there at 9 o'clock, do you actually show up at 9 o'clock? Or are you showing up at 9:30? It's a little thing. But those little things, it erodes trust if you're not doing it. Or on the flip side, it builds trust little bit by bit if you do those things. So can you keep promises to yourself? Being there on time. Are you gonna, say the things? Are you gonna follow through the things you're gonna do? That's the big one for me. Next is looking at your intention with building trust with any of these people. A good example is if you were an employee and I need to build trust with my employer. Great, it's a great idea. Well, why? Well, so that way I can slack off in 3 months. Okay, well, look at your intentions there. They might notice that. They might notice that you're already trying to do that. So look at your intentions. Do you have good intentions in that I want to have more freedom because I want to be able to make these moves in my job, and I want to be able to, try these new things that could help the business? Great, okay, cool. Well, that's your intention. So start with your intention. And I always say, if you're not sure how to start with intention, for me, my practice is I start with by meditating. Because life throws a lot of things at us. You got a lot of emotions going. Start with meditating. For me, and for you, I hope I'm running a workshop on. I hope you do it too. But you just recognize, okay, I'm gonna just take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and just be with myself and just be calm. No screens, no distractions, nothing, and just sit and be, to kind of level my emotions in a good way, and just to kind of come back to a good headspace. So that's to check and then ask myself, well, what are my intentions with this? What are my intentions with the business, with being on the team, with my relationship? So checking that. 3 is improving your track record. So that's a big part of it is, again, if you're constantly, hey, you know what, team sport, we start at 5 o'clock and you're constantly there 5 minutes late, that doesn't build trust. Or on the flip, if you're there 10 minutes early every time, right, and you're ready to go 10 minutes early every time, that's going to build trust. And I know as a coach, I know the kids that show up early. I trust them. And typically those ones I trust on the field. I know the players that when I play in a rec league, I know the guys that show up early. It's high trust with those guys. I know they're going to do their best effort all the time. So looking at your track record, and that's built on these little actions every day or every time you have an opportunity to. And so in the book, again, they talk about behaviors, and those are just kind of my steps. Well, they have 13 of them. The 4 ones I want to go over really quick. So one is being transparent. Being transparent, I say being transparent with your intentions of what you want, especially in anything, but look at an example of being transparent in a relationship. Sometimes it is telling your partner, hey, look, I am that honesty. I am a little frustrated right now in this scenario that we have going on. or maybe going to your coach or maybe your teammates. I'm frustrated at this. I'm frustrated at whatever it is. Being transparent, or being transparent in, what you need to see them do too. So just transparency is so key. And then again, these are the ones that stand out to me. Delivering results, that is so crucial. I think of players that have coached. It was high trust because I knew when it mattered they were going to do their absolute best and they deliver results. Think about Amazon. They deliver results. I pay, it comes in 2 days, results. High mechanic shop that you trust, or maybe it's, coaches, trainers, maybe it's, the best trainers out there. They're delivering results over and over again. All the other stuff aside, they're delivering results over and over again. So it's something to keep your notes. That builds high trust. Clarifying expectations. This is a big one that stood out to me. A lot of times, again, as a kid comes to me and says, okay, as a coach, kid comes to me and says, I want to play more. Okay, well, I need you to do better. If I said that to the kid, I don't say that to the kid. I need you to do better. Well, kid's going to go back and go, well, what does that mean? Like, well, what do you mean do better? Right? Clarifying, being very, very clear on what I expect from them. Hey, I expect you to do this. I expect you to line up like this. Make these plays. I don't expect you to be 100%, but I expect, you go all out in effort. That's my expectations. It's 100% in effort, 100% in attitude. All the time, every time. So again, clarifying expectations, in a relationship is so big. This is a mistake I've made in the past where I didn't clarify my expectations. I know my partner didn't, in the past didn't as well. Is what does that look like? Oh, I need you to, you hear lots of, okay, well, I want to spend, I've had this conversation with my partner, my wife now, Emily, is she wants more time together. Okay, great. What does that look like? And we talked about it and it was amazing. It was like, oh, my time together was a different version of what her time together was. And I went, okay, this is so powerful because now I know exactly, and especially men, a lot of times we're doers and we want to just, okay, this is what it is. So having that clear direction, I know it's huge, and that's not, maybe it's other people, or everybody's like, maybe not everybody's like that, but I know for myself, it was clear direction. So clearing expectations is so big. And that way, because now you can go, okay, well, this is what I need to do. I need to, being transparent. I'm going to deliver results, and this is what those results look like. This is what that means to them. This is what, again, from a business standpoint, okay, what are your expectations? I've done this before as a trainer. Somebody comes in, and they go, I want to lose a bunch of weight. Cool. Well, when do you want to lose weight? Oh, in 3 months. I want to lose 50 pounds. I need to set, you got to set those expectations right away. Look, it's probably not going to happen. Because that, safe and effective weight loss doesn't happen that quick. Can happen, there's certain people, whatever, but all things aside, generally speaking, that's not safe and effective. So setting clear expectations, and then they know, right, okay, this is the timeline. And then that builds trust because I'm being very clear on how things are going to happen, what it's going to look like, and then when those results do come, it builds more trust. So last one, again, and it all ties in, is keeping your commitments. And I mentioned it before, so a business standpoint, I see this lots on, maybe it's other towns too, but wherever, I've seen this lots in businesses is where, hey, can you email me your pricing? Can you get back to me with this? Can you give me a call? I have some questions about a product. And, oh, okay, I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call today, whatever. 2-3 weeks later, nothing. It's like, well, that's not building trust as a business. Why would I trust that person? And if you're somebody that's had that experience, do you trust that business again? No, you move on. You scroll to the next one and go to them. In a relationship, if, hey, you know what, I need you, date night's really important to me. And, we cut setting clear expectation of what that is, and then can you keep, commit, actually being there and present at that time is everything. Again, looking at even in teams, it's guys aren't showing up. How am I supposed to, hey, we're committed to a practice, or we're going to do this tournament, or we're going to do this game, or, on Friday night we have the games, but you haven't been there all week. Well, you're not keeping to the commitment that we set in place, so how can I trust you, right? So keeping those commitments. So to recap on that, is, again, the transparency. Being clear on just open communication, so clear. Me and my wife call it clearing the glass, just being bluntly clear, and not to hurt anybody, not to get mad, but just being very clear in a calm way and with an open heart. Delivering results, huge, for so many reasons. clarifying your expectations. This is a massive one in relationships, in businesses, and that really everybody can use clarifying, what the other person's expecting, so that and to get very clear on both and you can agree on that, and then keeping those commitments. So just some tools there for you to use and to build trust. So if you are somebody that wants to build more trust in a relationship, you have some tools there, or just some habits and what that actually looks like. And if you're a business, again, looking at, do my customers trust me? Am I a high trust company? Am I transparent? Do I deliver results? Do I stick to my commitments as best as I humanly can? Do I clarify expectations? Again, there's 13 habits in that book. All of them are really good, but looking at, those are the big 4 for me that stood out. So if you've had trust, the last thing is, if you've had trust broken in the past, or how do you move forward with somebody that is low trust? So I said in the book, they talk about smart trust. So you kind of have a matrix that's being, propensity to trust on one, down here, and being analytical or analyzing right down here. So you have 4 quadrants, and essentially you want to get here where you are making smart trust, where you are saying, hey, I'm trusting you with this task, being very clear, using those behaviors, being very clear on what I want, but also giving you an opportunity. Because the worst thing to do is, if you want to build trust with somebody, is, okay, well, I'm going to build trust with them, but never give them a chance to trust. And also picking apart everything they do and not giving them a chance to, any opportunity. So, on the other side too is, high trust without thinking, well, hey, I trust this call from somebody that claims to be CRA, and they're going to I'll give them a credit card, right? That's an example of a lot of trust, but not really thinking very clearly. So again, just keeping that in mind as you want to create a scenario to move forward and trust with anybody, with businesses, with partners, with friendships, with on teams. Give them an opportunity to trust, or that you can build trust with them and they can build trust with you, and vice versa. And then, but being smart with it, looking at it, again, in a relationship, okay, here's what I need, and here, can you be here at this time doing this thing? Exactly, whatever that looks like. And again, setting those smart expectations. So maybe you've been burned by somebody in the past, from them cheating on you, hypothetically, or just not showing up when they're, when you want them to. Okay, well, here, let's try this again, let's try this. And being very clear, very specific, and when, and not setting them up for failure, right? Because that's kind of being vindictive and just being a dickhead. But giving them an opportunity where they actually can succeed, and just build that little trust. Trust is like I've heard it too, trust is like a jar of marbles, right? And every time somebody does something, it's just little bits, just putting it into the jar. And sometimes they have actions that add a big amount of trust. But on the flip side, sometimes trust is slowly eroded away, and other times dumped out and spilled completely. So when you think about trust, think about, filling the jar full of marbles, filling up the jar, and like I said, I give you some actions there and some ways to do that. So I know it's kind of a longer podcast, but it's clearly something I'm passionate about, and I think that everybody can use and can change just so many things in your life. Again, family, if you want to work on your relationship with your kids or your parents, whether it's business, whether it's a spouse or a partner, even if it's trust with yourself, it's going to help you. And I hope you learn from this. And I really, again, I'd like to say thank you for listening to this. I appreciate you. Hope you've learned something. Hope to add value to your life. And if it did, you had a few of those moments go, oh, that's really cool, that's really clever. Please, subscribe, because that helps to grow what I'm doing. Please share it with somebody, because maybe they need to hear it too, or just reinforce something you're already doing. You can always reach out to me. You can always go to my Instagram, it's kicked in the junk. You can always message me on this, and I'd love to hear from you if there's some areas that I did help in your life. So please, follow, subscribe, like, share, all that. I did want to let you know about the 8-week meditation workshop we're running. Again, this is something I'm super passionate about. That's what I'm doing, because I love it, and it changes. It makes trust so much easier when you're at that place and you're able to meditate and just be with yourself and just be present. And something I'm just continuing to teach. And so if you have questions about that, please reach out. You can go to LifePurposefully.ca to find out more information about that. and what we're doing there, and how we're just trying to help as many people as we can with what we're doing. And again, so thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, appreciate the time you put into this, and I will catch you on the next one.